Great. So again, thanks everyone for coming to the session today. This is the using the BBAppFx API Part 1 session. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to John. And I'll also just say, as you've been indicating here, that this is an open interactive session. So feel free to take yourself off mute, ask any questions. I'll be monitoring the chat along the way as well.
Right, awesome. Welcome, everyone. I do see a number of familiar names here. Some people that, Prajitha, I think I've worked with you before. Adam, I saw you last week. A few other people that I recognize. So welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I definitely appreciate it. So just going to jump right out of the gate. I got a confession to make. I planned on 75 minutes, and I only have 45. So we're going to be covering a lot of material in a very short time today. Look, my objective here, just so you know, I want to teach you all how to use in today's session an inheritance model to make your work with the Blackbaud AppFx SDK a lot simpler, a lot easier, and a lot more efficient. Just to give you an idea, I actually have an entire model wrapped around this. I can now write any API I want using Excel. Pretty neat, huh? So just show of hands. I don't know if you guys can raise hands or whatever. Y'all familiar with inheritance? Who's used inheritance before? And by the way, everybody who's on a virtual machine, go ahead and start up an instance of Visual Studio 2022. You'll see it right down there on the bottom. Do not start 2017. It won't do what you want it to. So open up Visual Studio 2022, and you'll see there's only one project link in the quick start. So go ahead and open that up. And then who here is familiar with using inheritance? Hands, smiley faces. I'm not a huge user of Zoom. All right, so in a nutshell, I wrote this. I was just telling Pat, I wrote this kind of model kind of as a matter of self-preservation because I got tired of writing the same code all the time. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is kind of how to simplify that whole methodology by saying, hey, what is it that I need every single time I go in and write an API? What is it that I need every single time I write a list, go down to search list or data list, etc. And I basically built those into an inheritance model so that you don't have to rewrite the same code. And for those of you that are coming back tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, I'm gonna basically show you how to make it so that you don't even have to actually populate any of those properties in your request objects, right? So from a high level, what do we do when we work with an AppFx API, right? Well, first thing we need to do is we need to connect to the server, right? We need to connect to the service. We always need to authenticate, right? We always need a database. We always need a URL. And the other thing that we always need is an object ID, right? Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you want to open a constituent search list, which is what I'm working with today, right? You need the ID of that object, correct? So I said to myself, hey, John, so why wouldn't I go ahead and put that into, I don't know, a base class, right? So I can have that stuff out there all the time. So what I did was I wrote this BBAppFx base class. Does everybody see that here? Do I need to zoom in on this code a little bit? Is this a little bit small? I know I have a pretty high resolution monitor. Let me zoom in a little bit. All right, hopefully that's good. So what I did, I just built out this base class, which has a service, it has credentials, it has a URL, it has the database, it has the object ID, right? So that's my AppFx base class. And then I built a constructor that takes a GUID, right? That's the GUID of the object you're going to use, right? And then I have my init AppFx. But I want to show you something right out of the gate, and this is where we're going to get into some interactivity. Okay, you'll notice if you're in this project, you're going to notice there is a test app. It's just a simple console application. Okay, and in that console application, I have a constituent search object, which I wrote. Notice it's just inheriting from something. We don't need to worry about what this is doing just yet. We haven't gotten there yet. Okay, and then I have a little test code here, and I just want to show you one thing, right? Let's see. And this is where we can get a little hands-on. So I'm just putting a second call in here to execute the search. We're going to take this away. All right, so this is purely illustrative. Okay, so I'm going to go in here. Hope I didn't comment something out and forget about it. All right, and I'm going to walk through what all is happening in this initialization part shortly, right? But I'm just going to walk into execute search. Okay, I'm going to go into authenticate with the default credentials. Again, this is something I wrote, and you should note of that. That way we don't keep getting notified. All right, so I just set my credentials, right? And then I'm going to run this BBAppFx program, which I wrote. Okay, check this out. All right, is service null? Yes, it is. Oh, actually, it did initialize. Interesting. I must have a default in there somewhere. Okay, but what I'm trying to illustrate here, right, is that if I go in and do that a second time, okay, I'm not going to execute load yet. If I go in and do that a second time, right, what's it going to do? It's going to try to reinitialize the service. So here's the first thing I did to make this work better. Trust me, it takes a long time to go in and attach to that service. Well, you can all do this along with me if you're following along. I made all this stuff static. Okay, that way I have a consistent object. Okay, so the web service is static, credentials are static, URL, DB to use is static, okay, and app name would be static. The object ID cannot be static, by the way. That's got to be an instance method. Right now, because I did that, these methods need to be static. Anybody know what static does? Someone want to come off mute and tell us what static does?
Keeps everything in global memory. One instance.
Yep, puts everything in one instance, which means I'm using the same instance. You know what? I authenticated in the constructor, which I didn't step into, which is why you didn't see it showing up as null. But take my word for it, it was empty, and when it initialized the second time, it did it again. Right. So now when we do this, yeah, let's see. I get everything static that I needed static. I believe so. Oh, the other thing I did, see this protected AppFx base equals new AppFx web service. That's got to be the static constructor. And then I would remove this here because there's no more parameterless instance constructor. And we got to remove the protected. All right. Everybody tracking with this? Does anyone have a question? Somebody want to give me a comment? Let me know you're out there. Okay. So that's the first thing. Now, the next thing that I did, this does need to be an instance method. The next thing that I did after I wrote this static stuff, everything that uses parameters or field values, okay, everything. So I'm talking about search lists, I'm talking about data lists, I'm talking about list builders, I'm talking about data forms, be they add data forms or edit data forms. They're all going to have this whole concept of a data form field value set and a data form item. Those things need to be created for every single item that we're going to work with. Okay, really any filterable or item that contains form metadata is the whole idea. All right, so I wrote this other form filter base, right, which inherits from AppFx base. That form filter base just basically builds out those properties so that I don't have to write them again. Good so far? And then, of course, if it takes context,
Hey, John, we have a question. If you could, from Adam, if you could go over again real quick, I guess, where all the changes are. He just
sure.
He got his environment running late due to the error.
No problem. So all you're going to see, right, is the only thing in his AppFx base class that I did not make static, okay, was this object ID, and we're going to get to that later. All right, so everything else We added a static constructor right here. Okay. We added, so init AppFx is static as well. Glad you asked that question because I actually missed something that would have caused it to break. Okay, so basically wherever you see static in these first 60 lines of code, if you want me to stay up here, those are the only changes I made so far.
Why was one BBAppFx base static and the other one's protected? Should they both be static?
Which ones? The constructors?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. I kind of didn't get to that yet, but I'm more than happy to answer it. Basically, I'm using constructors, right? When we finally get down to building an actual search list object like the constituent search, we already have that GUID. I'm passing that GUID up the chain, up the constructor chain, okay, into this instance method. And so if you're going to create, say, one constituent search and one revenue transaction search, right? Are those going to have the same GUID? No, they're not. So this piece, this object ID cannot be static. It's got to vary from object to object. Everything else, though, is going to be identical across any object I create. Does that make sense?
Sorry, muted back. Yes, thank you.
Was that Alan?
You got it.
Got it.
Thank you, John.
No problem. All right. Any other questions about the model I'm using for the static piece? Great question. Thank you, Alan. All right. Next thing. So I built out this form filter base. Like I said, all it has is the field value set and the form item. And I put this execute load in here. And again, this will work. This will work for basically any object that inherits from this. Now, some objects create context, and I just put this in here, even though I'm not using it, not for our purposes here. I only put this in here to show you that this is another step down where I'm adding a context record ID. Okay. And so basically a data list is now going to inherit from that context form filter base. All right. So your data list, because a data list is going to sometimes need context, we have to give it the ability to accept context. That's what I'm doing here. All right. We're going to spend a little bit more time on the data list piece tomorrow. The one we're working with is our search list base. Now, this is where the real meat of this stuff comes in. Okay. Where the meat of this stuff comes in is, okay, whenever I work with the API, right, what am I always going to need? I need a request object. I need a reply object. If I'm using an editable data form, I need a load request and a save request, and a load reply and a save reply, right? Are you familiar with that? So what I wrote this search list base, okay, that creates this, oops, did not need to do that. You know, I have to tell you, I'm not 100% used to some of the features of 2022 yet. Okay. So I have this search list base, okay, which has my load request and my load reply. Here's my constructor, search list base. It takes a GUID. Notice it calls into the base object ID, okay. And then see what I'm doing here? Search list ID equals object ID. All right. Then here's where I call my things, authenticate, init AppFx, execute load, request object.filter, etc. Is everybody pretty clear with this inheritance model that I put together so far? Does anyone have a question on this? We're going to make some changes very shortly. All right, cool. All right, so now we get down to brass tacks. So I kind of set the stage a little bit for you. All right, the next thing I did is I went in and built this constituent search. Okay, here's where the whole idea of the constructor comes in, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna step through this so that you can all see. Does anyone need me to zoom in, or are we good?
Yeah, can you zoom a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. How's that looking?
It's a little better. Thank you.
All right. So this is only stubbed out. We're going to be doing a little bit of work in here. Okay. So if I go back into my program file now, I'm going to get rid of this second instance of constituent search because I don't need it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to keep it there momentarily. All right, so I'm going to step into this entire process. Right? There's my constituent search. Notice it's calling the base constructor. Okay, that calls its base, which calls its base. Right? Sets the object ID. All right, the static part, the static constructor, I think already ran. Right? Sets our request object. Right? And now it's setting our URL and our BB Infinity, our database to use. Okay? Right, and now we're doing it for our second object. All right, now execute search, authenticate. All right, so we're setting our credentials. I just used the default credentials here today. Initialize. Okay, notice the service is already initialized, right? The URL does need to be set. Did I make URLs? Did I remember to make URL static? I did. Okay, and now we're going to do our load. Now, here's the rub. Do I have anything in my filter yet? Have I built any filters yet? Request object.filter. I know this is going to be a little hard to see, but if I mouse over that, you're going to see there are no values in that filter. Okay. And I'm getting my request header, and now we're executing our search, which after a while, it's going to either return or it's going to tell me it's got too many rows either way. All right, so reply object, and what I will tell you is that it's got 100 rows, which is the max rows parameter. Okay, there are way more than that because I didn't filter anything down yet. So you remember how I told you I could eventually do this using Excel? Well, here's all I need to do. Okay, at least at this stage of the game. So all I need to do here, okay, is I need to write a property. Just going to put in a property public, and I'll show you where I get this from. Tomorrow we're going to use Excel for it. I'll give this a moment for Chrome and BB CRM to show up. Public string constituent quick find. I will tell you that the very important piece to this puzzle right here, and you can all do this along with me. The very important piece to this puzzle, I'm going to confirm this actual name. Number one, make the property uppercase. You'll see why tomorrow. Number two, make sure it's an exact match to what is in the actual BB CRM object itself. Okay, so I will be going into design mode to verify that. I believe it's called constituent quick find. I will paste that into the chat so you all don't need to go into BB CRM and do this. Okay. Design mode. All right, we're going to be looking at our input fields. Okay, it's called constituent quick find, as I thought. All right, so we want our first property, constituent quick find. Get set. Okay, the other one we're going to want, I'll tell you this is kind of what we in the aviation world call local knowledge. We also want the only primary address parameter because by default that's false and it will return multiple records if a constituent has multiple addresses, and we don't actually want that. Okay, so the next one is public pool only primary address. Get set. Now, for today, okay, so what I've done is I've added those properties. Okay, for today, right, I'm going to need to write, and we're going to take this away tomorrow. Okay, for today, I am going to have to write an overload, okay, which is why I declared it virtual to execute search. Tomorrow, we're going to take this away because I have a way of not using the overload, but for today, we're going to need to. Okay, so for today, and let's see, I just got to check which one I got to add to. Yep. Okay. So right here in my constituent search, right, I'm going to do a public override execute search. Okay. I am going to make base.execute search the last thing in this method. Okay. And all I'm going to do here is say field value set dot add. And the name, this is why it's important. New data form item. This is going to bark at me. Sorry, it's new. Field value set is, sorry, it's new data form yield value. And I'm going to let that bark at me momentarily because I forgot a using. So if we want to fix this in your copy, just go ahead and right click on it and put in that using, or I will go ahead and paste it in for you. Let's see. Why am I unable to put something in the chat? There we go. All right. That using statement is in the chat. Okay, and so for the data form field value, we're going to use the exact name of the property. This is important. The exact name of the property. Okay, and I'm just going to give it a hard-coded value of 96. Of course, I'm sure you all realize that that is Robert Hernandez. Did I miss a paren? I did not. And then the second one we're going to do is add a new value. And this one is going to be only primary address. Like I said, very important that we use the exact correct names. And that is going to be a Boolean true. Okay, and now I'll go into program. I'll get rid of these second instances because we don't need them. There's my constituent search. I just did the execute. And now if I just go into the immediate window, or I just go into the autos right here, CS, reply object. And if you're doing this with me under output, you should have 2 rows in there. The row count should be 2. Why don't you let me know if we're doing if we're all tracking with this? Is this making sense to everyone?
Sorry, could you just repeat that last chain, that second data form field value? I didn't quite catch it.
It's here I have. It's only primary address, which is true. I mean, I'll show you what that is because I'm doing much better on time than I expected. Like I said, I had prepared for 75 minutes. Constituent search. That's why I had a lot. I was going to write more of this code is really what the delta was. Right. So you see how that, see how that returns 2 records on that constituent search list. And let me go back to that code so you all can see it. It's only primary address, which is true. Did you get that? All right, and I'll go back to BBCRM. Okay, if I go back to this constituent search, right, what that is, you see this individual, the only search primary address checkbox here? That's actually a default that's created in the spec. Okay, because it's created in the spec, it is not a default in the API itself. Okay, that's really like in design mode here. It's like a form default value. Okay, so we need to make sure we're setting that. Any other questions? So I'm sure you're wondering to yourself, who here is wondering, oh, so what good is this going to do me? Yes, no? So how about I'll show you. Somebody give me the name of a search list. What is a search you would like to see? Not a constituent search, a different one. Someone come off mute, type it in the chat.
Do a purpose search.
A purpose search. I don't know if I have the right data for that. Let's take a look. I knew somebody was going to give me, let's see, a purpose search.
Someone else mentioned event. That's perfectly
An
fine.
event, yeah, events, I know I have data.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep, events are good. Okay, so event, and so in design mode, and what I'm going to do this time is, let's see, the name of an event. And I'm actually going to go, let's see, administration, application, features, and I'll do a search list search. And event. I love this, a search list about search lists. Kind of like a coffee table book about coffee tables. My friends from the 90s. Oh, there we go, event. All right, event search. All right, so here I am in my event search. Okay, and here I am in my fields. I'm going to do a search by, let's see, I'll do a search by name. All right, here's all we have to do, and you're welcome to do this along with me. Let me get out of debug mode here. All right, so first thing I need to do. Then search, inherits, search list base. So I told you, I'm still not fluid with all the new features of 2022, like when it does autocomplete stuff. All right, event search. It's going to bark at me. There's no argument given that responds to the required parameter object ID. So here's what I need to do. And what, by the way, you don't have to do this exactly this way. Okay, public event search. Base, new GUID. And oh, that's ugly. And all I need to do right here, watch this. This is another feature of 2022 that's different. Copy. I don't know if y'all have seen this yet. It actually pastes in the escape characters for the for the carriage return. We're just going to get rid of that. All right, so there I am with my event search constructor. This I could probably put somewhere else in my code, but I'm going to let it live here just because. And now I need some properties. I said I wanted to search on name, right? Public string name. Get set. And now I'm going to do my override. Execute search. In fact, watch this. This is how easy this is, because if you're not stealing, you're not coding, right? Everyone's familiar with that concept? If you're not stealing, you're not coding. There we go. Name. And I'm going to put in SDKU. I can tell you that that is a good name, right? Right? Everybody want to take a minute and get caught up with that? Want to let me know if you're ready to move forward or if I should wait for anyone? Did anyone fall behind?
Can you paste the event GUID in chat?
Yep, absolutely. There you go. Just make sure to take out any white space. All right, just let me know when you're ready to move forward. Okay. All right, so once we've done that, all I got to do is go back over to my program. Okay, and this time I'm going to clean some of this up a little bit. I'll get rid of my CS2. I don't need that. And this time, event search, ES equals new event search, ES.name equals SDKU. I did make a mistake. Just realized that it happens to all of us. SDKU. We want to set that property in here. How come nobody called me out on that? I don't want this to be SDKU. I want this to be the property name, right? Give everybody a minute to fix that. Sorry about the mistake. Nobody called me out. All right, so now I just go back over here. I set my name equal to SDKU, ES.execute search. All right, I'll do a run to cursor. There's my execute search. And if you look at your reply object, oh, it didn't show any rows. That's interesting. Row count 0. Wonder what mistake I made there. Well, guess I'll have to test it. Let's see. I think I know what the mistake is. And that would be something that you would code around. Okay, event search. Oh, I know why. I was thinking of something different. Well, let me find a different name that'll show up. Well, I really got to update these events, huh? 2010 is my earliest event. Here, I'll do the spring ball. So I'll change the name to spring. I was thinking of a designation as opposed to an event. Run the cursor. And let's see what we got. So if you use spring, you should get something. And reply object. Output. And there are 2 rows when you type in the word spring. And we would see if I went in and actually ran that search list. If I just type in the word spring, spring ball, and spring auction. So what questions can I answer? Because I got 6 minutes left, and I'm going to start jumping into how we are going to work, how we're going to work in the whole Excel piece here. Anyone got a question? So, if I wanted to, okay, I'm just going to show you this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and open up a copy of Excel for myself. And it is going to be on my other screen briefly, but I'll bring it back over. Oh, no. Cancel. All right, I'm going to have to fix that before tomorrow. But you know what? I'll do it this way. I will fix that licensing issue. That is my mistake. Let's see. Download to CSV. And so here's my CSV file. Show in folder. We don't actually need Excel here. Edit with Notepad++. But what I'll do is I'll make sure that license is fixed by tomorrow. So we have this CSV file, right? What I was going to do in Excel is just write a formula that turns all of these values into properties. Does that make sense? Okay, so I would just create them all as properties. Okay, public, this, get set, and just build an Excel formula with which to do that. Okay, but of course, once I do that, wouldn't you think I would have a lot of work to do right in here in my class? Anyone have any idea how I'm going to get around this? Of course, if you know the name of the next session, then you already have an idea of how I'm going to get around this tomorrow, which is to use reflection to discover these properties that I've put in. That said, does anybody think I want to use every single property? So what I needed was a method to identify only the properties that belong in the request object of the BBAppFx call, right? So that's what we're all going to do tomorrow. I'm going to make a recommendation since I have to fix Excel. I'm going to end up republishing these machines for tomorrow. I mean, you'll automatically be registered, okay? But when I republish them, if you did any work, you're going to it'll get lost. So what I would like you to do is this code. I'm going to paste I'm going to paste this into this path into the chat. Okay, just copy the folder out of here. Okay, so that BBAppFx tools, just copy that entire folder. You do have full access to the clipboard. Okay, and these machines will remain running until 5 Eastern. Okay, so you have full access to the clipboard. So just copy it down to a place where you can find it. And when you log back in tomorrow, like I said, I'm gonna be republishing, but when you log back in tomorrow, everything will be as it should be with Excel, and I will show you how we're going to get around those two issues.
Hey, John, is there any way for you to provide the code you updated off your machine?
Actually, when I publish this machine, it's going to be there on your machine tomorrow.
Oh, great. Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks.
That's one of the reasons I did that, is because that way because I'm working on the template. So once I publish, everything on my machine is what's going to be on your machine. Make sense?
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, that was kind of by design. That way everybody's on the same page for tomorrow. That way if somebody had a little bit of a difference in their code, it doesn't hold us up tomorrow. Make sense?
Yeah, you're right.
All right, what do y'all think?
Good stuff. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you everyone for being here.
Thanks, John. Have a good one.
All right, by the way, all the links will be exactly the same for tomorrow, with the exception of you're gonna need a new RDP link. So don't try to use today's. Tomorrow's RDP link, not the registration link. The RDP link is going to change. Okay. All right, thanks everyone.
Right.
All right, thank you. See you tomorrow.
All right, Pat, you on?